Yay. Okay.
I believe in you.
I think we're up.
I believe in you, and potentially this, or in my internet connection that's supposed to be one of the better ones one of our local companies offers. So we'll see how this goes.
I think we're good.
Well,
Yes.
we're good then.
We are good. Yay.
We
Okay.
I both love and hate the Facebook lives and the podcast that start off with "and we are live." Now I understand why.
It's true. It's true.
Hi,
Okay,
Kaylee
well,
Johnson.
Braden Long, everybody, we have a new face today, clearly. Braden, if you want to introduce yourself, that'd be awesome.
Well, hi everybody. Chief Meteorologist Braden Long, Fox43 here for Book Club now. Whenever meteorologist Allie Debicki started Book Club about you two both, I shouldn't say just her, it's a brainchild of the two of you. What started it a year ago now almost, you said?
Hmm.
That I was extraordinarily jealous because this is one of two bookcases in my house behind me. And so I'm like, "Oh, hey, why did I not think of this ever starting a book club?" So jealousy abound. Then Allie left on maternity leave. Gabby got the gig. More jealousy abound. So I'm just over here pining, waiting for like, when will I be called? When can I give my contributions to the book world? Because this is my medium.
Now it's your turn.
So yeah, I mean, I like I said, we have two bookcases here in the house. I'm an avid reader. I read like 102 books last year,
My
which
goodness.
is a outlier. That was not the norm. It started with all of these up here, which are like Agatha Christie's. Well, they're over here too, and
Nice.
that started the journey like years and years ago. 2017, Murder on the Orient Express came out, and I remember seeing it on a big billboard in Los Angeles for the film, and it was like the second or third film adaptation. I'm like, oh, that looks good. And then I realized, oh, hey, there are 66 Agatha Christie novels plus short stories. Let's go. And so over the years, we've just been buying them up, buying them up, buying them up. I'm a library sale fiend. So
Didn't
that's where all
Sire
these
like
one.
find you at a library sale she was covering a little bit
Yeah,
ago?
she found us at the Lancaster Library Sale, which
That's
I need to look
awesome.
up the date because that was last summer, and it was in the old Bonton at Capital City Mall. So
Amazing.
or not at Capital City Mall, at Lancaster Park City Mall, and it was huge. That was one of my first ones. I am now a regular at the New Cumberland Library Sale every the first and third Saturdays over in New Cumberland, Cumberland County, and the Redland Library Sale and for the York County libraries here, and just about anywhere else I can drag my husband to go. And that's
Nice.
it. $1, $2 books. Yes, ma'am. And they go to the library. That's a good cause. If I keep them, great. And if not, donate them back. They'll be sold again. So
It's a beautiful cycle.
that's how all of our books have come into the cycle. Smokey's over here on my leather couch here. I'm in the basement, and he is just the reading partner that just sits on the lap, and that's it.
That's what you need. Sometimes I'll
We
watch like one of our coworkers' cats and I always carry my little book down. I'm like, "Come here. It's time to read."
we have our own reading corner upstairs where there's a chair, there's a light, and we're next to the window, and so he gets to sit in my lap and bark at everybody, and I
Amazing.
just get to sit there and let my lap get scratched up by any time that he moves. But it's the best situation.
That sounds amazing. And I
We
mean,
try.
clearly, if you're into Agatha Christie, you're into crime novels. So I'm hoping that this was a nice surprise this month. Double
This
reception.
this this was right down my alley. Agatha
Amazing.
Christie, Louise Penny, like that's my jam. But I saw a lot of local people mention that they compare her to John Grisham.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
John Grisham is on my shelf. David Baldacci on my shelf.
Amazing.
Um, so
Slide
that's
Elizabeth A.
that's no
Wilson
strange.
right
Yeah,
in next to it.
Elizabeth A. Wilson, local Lancastrian, I hear
Amazing.
right
Yes.
there.
Lifelong Lancaster County, born, raised. Amazing. And so I had to
Well,
ask her, I was like, "You're, born, raised Lancaster County. Like, where'd you get big city crime like as your idea, And she was like, "Well, that's what I read." Like kind of what you were just saying. She was like, "That's what I read. That's what I write." Like it's great. So that's awesome.
not only big city crime. We're going to Alaska. We're talking
Yeah.
about cartels. We're doing all of that other stuff. I was watching an interview a long time ago, and this will go with what Elizabeth said. It was another Louise Penny interview actually, and she was trying to break out of her broadcasting career and decide what she wanted to write, and she wanted to write this big historical fiction novel and say, "Oh, I'm writing the best novel there ever. Thank you, Oprah. I'm gonna have you. You're gonna have me on your show. Blah blah blah." And then she looked at her bedside table, and what was really representative was crime fiction. So why not
There you
write
go.
what you read and write what you want to read? So that makes perfect
Exactly.
sense.
And I kind of like this one too a lot because it kind of had like a little bit of everything. You know, you had your crime, you had your romance, you had that like I don't know what the word is, but you know, like with the
Mhm.
double agent, the mystery. There we go, mystery. So, you know, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it for sure. This is my first read for the book club, and as I mentioned to Kaylee behind the scenes here before we started our Facebook Live, I was really slowed down by my first nonfiction foray before I was reading this book, and so I finally got to this book 2 days ago. Finished it yesterday. It is a very quick speed read in terms of just the pacing of it, anyhow. From the setup and everything. I mean, that it's what 230 pages and that's it. So we don't mince words here. We don't waste time here.
Nope.
We just get right to it. Now, character depth here, sure. I mean, whenever you do that, you have to be real skillful at writing to be able to then still have some sort of semblance of character. So that was a good accomplishment by Miss Wilson here. Um, but it's a quick read. It can be a quick speed read, as
Yeah,
opposed to now
absolutely.
I'm back with more nonfiction on Age of Revolutions for Reed Zakaria. So this was a nice palate cleanser too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were saying about like quick character development. One of the things that I think is cool about that is that she has this is part of a series. It's Mission Justice.
Hmm.
So there are four more in the series, and each one focuses on a different like federal agent that's introduced in this book. So you get like more of a deep dive into their personalities. I just started the Phantoms today. This is the second one. This one focuses on Gary, which if you've read the books, I'm sure you're a fan. At least I'm a fan. I thought he was a great character, and I'm very excited to read more about him in this one.
Now, I saw your story that you did with her, and whenever she published in 2019, is she
Mhm.
self-published?
Yes, she is. So she
That's what I
said
thought.
that with crime novels, it can be like kind of hard to break into the industry because there are so many crime writers. So she found out that you can sort of like self-publish through Amazon. So one of her friends acts as her editor, and then they publish through Amazon, and they can get the books up like really quickly, which is just awesome. I never knew that was a thing, and she was like, "Yeah, it's great for us like smaller regional like local authors."
Do you know one of the real big mainstream popular authors that started out self-publishing and still self-publishes some of her books to this day?
Who's that?
Colleen Hoover.
Oh, no way. I had no idea. That's so
You're
cool.
Colleen Hoover first started self-publishing, and that's how like you saw a million of her books.
Yeah,
Verity, It Ends with Us, It Starts with Us. All of that stuff started out self-publishing and still does some to this day, depending on the subject.
that's
So
so
it's
cool.
not so I mean, you see a self-published author, or you see a certain style of a book where maybe it's not, the nice big hardcover that has the finest big cover that has had an entire design team behind it, that has had an entire marketing team behind it. But in my travels, for through bookstores, even local bookstores here too, and library sales, that means nothing. That is the true
Don't judge
definition
a
of don't
book by
judge a
its
book by
cover.
cover.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, and I was also really impressed. Like she was telling me that, like while we were chatting to set everything up, she was like, "Oh yeah, I just finished my 11th book," and I was like, "Oh my gosh! Like how many ideas, plots do you have like running around in your head?" She told me that she'll
Yeah.
work on like two or three books at a time, and I was like, girl, you're smart. Like I'm so impressed."
Yeah, I've toyed around with trying to write myself before, and it's hard.
It is
I mean,
hard.
we write for a living. We tell stories for a living. You with you digital in here, and me both in news stories and just in the weather story in general. And it's a completely different thing. That's a completely different commitment to come up with anything, especially since she is developing new characters. I haven't started reading the second or the third one, but being as much of a series fiend reader as I am too, like you get attached to characters and sometimes they become easier to write. So to start off just with a fresh slate every time, I imagine would be difficult.
Yeah, and that was kind of like what you're saying about characters. One of the other interesting things that she said to me, and that other authors have also said to me in my book club journeys, is she was like, like the characters kind of like develop their own personality and like kind of write themselves in a way. Like going back to Gary real quick, he was originally supposed to be a bad guy, and then she was like, the more I wrote, he just took his own story over it. She was like, this guy is not going to let me make him a bad guy. And I was like, that's
Yeah.
Zach's dad. Like, he can't be a bad guy. And she was like, exactly.
Yeah, no, we love that for sure. Whenever you see certain characters, I had to, because I was speed reading, I had to do a take back, and this is of course a spoiler
Go for
friendly
it.
podcast. This is where we're going here. I had to look back where I first met Jace.
Oh,
I
yeah,
had to be like,
yeah,
where did we first come across him, first meet him? Because yes, I was kind of quickly going through the pages as we were getting ready for this. But you're introduced to so many characters, CIA, FBI, all that other stuff, and everything. So it can be easy to you got to pay attention.
yeah.
It's a nice it can be a nice popcorn thriller here, but you still got to pay attention. So yeah, I'm very glad Gary wasn't the bad guy.
Me too. Did you guess the bad guy?
No, 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 no.
I didn't either.
I am very much a passive reader. And so I'm along for the ride
Yeah.
and just to see how this goes. I mean,
Hold my hand, author.
unless it's obsequiously obvious, I am just along for the ride and I'm not trying to figure out your puzzle. I'm just trying to just see what's going on. And the way that this was written too, its brevity, it was like, some books are written to be books, some movies are written from books, some books are written to be movies. And this was very much written into a style where I felt like it was quick enough to where it's like the movie has happened and this is now the book recap. And by that I mean, I don't mean that in a negative connotation. I just mean that it just kept kind of going very quickly. So I didn't have time to try and guess who it was to begin with anyhow.
I did try and I failed. At first, I thought it was Gary, and then, like I said, I
Mm,
was like, well, that's clearly not happening. And then I
mm,
thought it was Shaw, which I think I was biased from like Fast and Furious because Shaw is one of the bad guys in that series. So I was like,
yeah.
it's definitely Lucas Shaw. He's the bad guy. It wasn't. So yeah, I just thought that was really cool, all the like little red herrings. And like you said, like I did have to like thumb back every now and then, be like, okay, well, what is this guy good at? What does this guy do? Like, will that help me figure it out? But I don't know. I
Hmm.
kind of agree with you too. I like being a passive reader. I want to be like surprised and like, oh my gosh, the twist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, whenever you read mysteries and crime dramas like this, like you can, sure, you can try and leave the clues behind or whatever. It takes a certain writing style to do that. I mean, she plays fair. There's
Hmm.
nothing here that is trying to trick you. It's just more quickly written. It's written like with a propulsive plot that keeps going and everything, and that's it. Now, like you mentioned, there's still plenty of romance in here. If you want some cheese, if you want all of the cheese in the world in terms of I love him, I like this, I thought about this. You're gonna get that here too.
Yes.
If that's what you're into, you're gonna get that here too. So it definitely has a movie like feel to it for sure.
Yeah, I found myself like reading it and being like, oh my gosh, they're moving so fast, like blah blah blah. And I was like, it's a book. Like that's kind of the point. The point is like you get all this
Mhm.
romance and I love it. So I can't be mad.
We do not dwell in the details of oh, this person, this is how they got here, this is where they moved here. Like I think of the Alaska part. Oh, all of a sudden 3 weeks, 4 weeks has passed.
Hmm. Yeah, sometimes you
Which
need that plot device.
now my I don't it's not a critique. My only like thing that I thought about whenever I was reading this was, oh, I did have to stop and think, oh, what has happened in this time? And by for a second, and by that I mean uh, the hospital bed definitely threw me for a loop for a second.
Hmm.
I had to go back and read. I had to go back and read and be like, did I miss a chapter in
Like,
here?
hold on a
Is there
second.
something that I missed here? No, we just kept fast forwarding through time.
Yeah, yeah, that did throw me off every now and then. Like you were saying about the hospital bed too. I also was not expecting the like plot twist of Zach being alive. So like I just had
Mhm.
no I was like, why are we in the hospital? But, you figure it out quickly enough. It kind of reminded me of one of our first books that we read was like a split point of view, and I didn't realize it for like 4 chapters maybe. I'm not proud of it, but all of a sudden I was like, this is not making any sense. Like they were just here, now they're here, like what's going on? And then that's when I realized that it was like
Mhm.
through two separate characters' point of views, but it kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, I just thought of this comparison as we're talking right now, and I think very much they were discussing Baldacci and Catherine Coulter and John Grisham. I very much think with the love story and everything, like, and this is a good comparison. I think Hallmark lifetimey action thriller kind of a thing
Yes.
is
Yeah, I
kind of how
think
I
you hit the
felt.
nail on the head there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's everything you want, everything you need. It's an easy read. It's like the perfect like another thing that Beth was saying was that they sell a lot of the books at yard sales. And she said that like every now and then a couple times she's had people like buy one, go to the car, start reading, like waiting for their husband or whatever to finish up, and then they'll like come back and be like, I'm gonna buy the next couple, like just having read the first couple chapters because it's so easy to get into.
And talk about grassroots.
Hmm.
Talk
Yeah,
about grassroots marketing there. So
exactly.
is it
Yeah.
like it's like whenever she has a big yard sale or friends yard sales, or how does that work? I remember seeing your story air on Monday, but part of that stuff is escaping me.
Yeah, so I think it's like pretty much anything, her yard sales, friends' yard sales. I got the impression too that maybe like flea markets and that sort of thing, like anywhere you can set up a booth. But it sounds
Yeah.
like it's a lot of word of mouth, people start reading them, they hand them out. The really nice thing about this book actually was her friend that I mentioned earlier who edits the books actually sent us the book to the station with like a nice little letter saying, like,
Yeah, I
please read
read
this
that
book.
too.
Yeah, I thought it was so sweet, but I was like, that's awesome. That really showcases like the power of like the grassroots like thing that you were saying.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I am all for, seeing what's mainstream, listening to all the bookish podcasts, seeing what's coming out, like that kind of a thing. But whenever we talk about our 10 counties, from Lewistown to Lancaster to Chambersburg to Lebanon, Harrisburg, York, Gettysburg, just throw those in there too. I, there's a lot of fantastic local people here that have either passed through here, written about here, or just do this because they want to. And that doesn't mean that just because they didn't find the New York publishing agent or are out of or are from one of the big five, Simon and Schuster, Random House, that kind of a thing, that these are not quality fun times.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're supporting somebody that you can really get to know too. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but Beth has had an entire other life already,
Hmm.
in terms of being retired, doing all this other stuff and everything. She doesn't need to make money from this. Anything that she does is out of the pureness of her heart, having fun and just pursuing a random passion.
Yeah.
There's some sort of free abandon with that, and some sort of fun abandon with that, I would assume.
I will say, like, meeting all these authors, a lot of which are in, like, a similar position to Beth, I'm, like, starting to make my life plan, like, okay, maybe after I retire, I can write a book too. Like, that'd be cool.
I've always been like I told you, I've tried to toy around with it before. I'm kind of like, is this what is life? Is this life after weather? Is this how I have my under the Tuscan sun moment and
Yeah.
move to Italy and just write books instead? Am I Diane Lane in this 2003 film? Is this how we can do this instead?
Like, I can only
Um,
hope.
so yeah, I could only hope. So what's the second one like so far? You're
It's really
you're a little
good.
ways in.
Yeah.
Writing style's the same, pace is the same, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, pretty much. I did notice, I feel like the writing style, which I don't know if this makes any sense after only one book, but I feel like the writing style is almost a little bit more like refined in the second one. Like I think she found her groove, like okay,
Oh,
this is
good.
like the style that I want to be in. This is my voice. This is what I sound like. So it's been cool
Hmm.
even though like I'm not very far into it. I don't know if you can see that. But
Yeah.
it's been cool to like see that so far.
Whenever I start a series, I always like starting with the first one
Mhm.
because I like to see how somebody hits their stride.
Mhm.
I mentioned I'm a big, Louise Penny fan. That's what these are right here. And to see somebody really find there's 18, 19 books in this
Oh wow.
series, but to see somebody really find their groove and become more comfortable with the process is almost as much fun.
Mhm.
Because at first, whenever you're reading this, you can, or not necessarily this one, but a first time author or a book, you can be like, oh, okay, oh yeah, there's a cliche in here. Oh, we're gonna use a lot of exclamation points. Okay, this is an interesting choice. But then they figure themselves out as well. And that's, I think, a fun part of it too. So whenever you're by the time, a lot of times in series, my favorite books are books 3, 4, 5. And it's because they put things together.
Yeah,
You
that
know,
makes a lot of
the first
sense.
the first one is the fun introduction. That might be one of your favorite books in the series because it just introduced you to everybody and the novelty of it. But the most fun journeys can be in the middle, books 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or she's on 12 now, is what you said.
Yeah. Yep.
So how many are out now? 5, 6, and she's up to 12. Is she just waiting to self-publish, or?
So she actually just published number 11, I want to say. So
Oh,
there
okay.
are 5 in this series, and then another 5 in another series, and then one standalone that's like a sci-fi, her first venture into sci-fi. So those are all out, all published. You can get them now on Amazon, and she's working on, I think she said 3 more, one of which is going to be set in like Lancaster County, the first one that she's, bringing back home. So I'm excited for that one.
Well, yeah, write what you know, write what you want to read, but also that's going to be able to give a really good ease of sense of place because she's lived there forever.
Hmm.
So that's a good one too. I'm glad that I knew that there's 5 or 6 in this Mission Justice series. Then I didn't feel so bad for not knowing that all 11 were. What's the other series of hers more trended towards?
I wish I remembered. I don't. But
Everybody, you can look her up on Amazon.
yes,
There you go.
on fox43.com, we have a whole deep dive.
With a link then to Amazon.
Yes. But yeah, I am also interested to read the sci-fi one just because, like, like we were saying, it'll be like now she's found a groove, but it's no longer crime. So I'm curious, how similar is this gonna be? I don't know.
Well, and she's more familiar with the process of what it's like to start to finish. Now, did you ask her, is she a planner or a pantser? And by that I mean, does she outline and plan, or does she figure out the characters as she goes? You mentioned that at first she thought that one person would be a villain. So does she just write and do the journey of where they take her? Or does she have like some sort of outline that she's planning on first? Do you know?
So I didn't ask her that question specifically, but if I had to guess, I'm gonna hazard a guess. I think that she just starts writing because, like you said about
Hmm.
the character kind of developed as she went. But she also told me that she kind of always has like ideas rattling around in her head, and like she kind of like refines them down. Maybe she writes them a little bit and kind of like figures it out in that way. But then like kind of starts writing, or she'll see like a news headline and be like, oh, that could be a good book. That's actually The Phantoms, she told me, was based off of a news headline. So it kind of seems to me like when inspiration strikes, it strikes, and she goes.
I'm always amazed where authors find their inspiration.
It's one of
Um,
the hardest
so I,
parts.
John Grisham said he loves reading the obituaries of the New York Times because
Interesting.
because they're detailed, their stories are in there, and that's where he's found some stuff. Anne Cleves, who is a writer of the Vera series that is popular over in Britain, but they're big here too. She just takes it from her environment and says that I do not plan one bit because I just let these characters take me where they're going to take me. Which for me, I'm like, as somebody who is an outliner and a planner, I'm thinking, oh, you really know these characters because you're just letting them take you where you go, as opposed to thinking, I have a predetermined destiny for you. Um, so
It's
I'd
almost
love to be able to
scary.
be like that. Yeah, kind of. You
Just
never know
letting
when
them
you're ever going to
wander.
get betrayed by your own character.
Yeah. Or like, what if you have like a plot point and the character's like, nope, we're not doing that. Like your whole book.
I would love, I would love to experience that mentality just
Yeah.
once, like to actually empathize it and live it.
Yeah. And like
The writing of
understand
it
it.
works. Yeah.
Well, are you ready to talk about our next book?
I am and for anybody who's watching, I have no idea what it is, so I don't know what I'm in for.
It's a surprise for everybody. Okay.
Okay.
So, in May, we are going to be reading In the Day of Trouble by, and I'm really sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Believe it's Taj Magruder. He's a press
Okay.
secretary for the Pennsylvania Department of Education. It's his debut novel, very exciting. It was just published in March, I want to say. Um, so he describes it as a blend of true crime and historical fiction, and it tells the true story of the 1934 murder of Suzanne Mummy, the Witch of Ringtown Valley. And oh yes, it was published in March. He says March 17th was the 90th anniversary of the event, and he says it's the most famous murder you've never heard of. So
Oh, we
I'm
love that.
intrigued about that. Yes, another one right up your alley. So very
Is
exciting.
that it?
Yes, I believe so.
There you go.
You're ready. You're
There
already
you
on
go.
it.
I'm ready.
But yeah, I can't wait. Hopefully, we'll be able to talk to him too. But that's what's coming up
Mhm.
in May.
How did you find him?
He actually also reached out to the station. He was like,
Oh,
"Hey, you might recognize my name. I'm sure I've sent you stuff before, but like that's not why I'm reaching out this time."
yeah, yeah. Well, with the last name like Magruder, that's a
Yeah,
recognizable one there.
yeah, right.
It's the 2024 version of MacGyver here.
Yeah.
So
And
there you go.
yeah, and like it's so nice when you guys reach out. Like we love hearing from the local authors and being like, "Read my book." And we're like, "Okay, yes, we'd love to." So
It
yeah,
is not
thank
an
you, Tosh.
imposition.
No,
It is
yeah,
not
no,
an
it is
imposition.
not. It is not. Please send them.
Send the ideas, send the books. I'll
Yeah,
send. Tell us what library they're at or what yard sale to find them at. Apparently.
right? And I think I've said this before, but like I think my favorite part of this whole thing has been like meeting all the authors, and like I just had no idea how many authors there are just like in our backyard. I couldn't believe it.
hmm
Yeah.
hmm There's a couple of bookstores, bookshops that are around here. I mean, local ones, everything from the Midtown Scholar to Bound Books in York to the Mechanicsburg Murder Mystery Bookshop that they all have here, and every single one of them has a local author section. And every time I go, it seems like those get bigger and bigger and bigger, both with just the ones that they stock, but also just in the number of people and everything. It's been an interesting era of publishing in our lifetime, because I mean, self-publishing whenever we were born in the 90s, or Kaylee, I don't know if you're a 2000 baby, I'm
I
sorry,
am.
but oh god, um, either way was a completely different animal. And so for them to be able to more easily get their voice out here and invest in themselves, is just an interesting journey for everybody. When now that I saw his was published by the Sunbury Press. Now, where did you say it was set again? So local murder mystery. Where is it set?
I believe Schuylkill County, or that's where he's
Well,
from at
there you go.
least.
Yeah,
Yes,
nearby,
set in Schuylkill
adjacent to
County.
South Central PA.
Mhm. Yeah.
The number of tornado warnings I've tracked in Tower City and up towards Schuylkill County, we certainly know those areas for sure. And a couple of our own people, Keith Schweigert,
Yeah.
Schuylkill County native, born and bred. So there you go.
Yeah, and Taj lives in Philly, works in Harrisburg. Book is set in Schuylkill County, so very Pennsylvania all around.
Very different types of Pennsylvania too.
Hmm.
You get a little bit of everything in there.
Absolutely, I'm very excited.
Well, other than Tosh Magruder, what are you reading right now?
So I'm actually working on Iron Flame. It's the fourth,
Oh, I'm
second book.
aware.
Yes, in the fourth wing. I've been working through all of the like viral like book talk ones, so I'm on fourth wing right now.
You are romanticing it up.
Yes, I am, and what a good rabbit hole they'll be in. I love it.
I
I
remember now that is a task to take. I remember FOX43's Leah Hall
Oh yes.
read that, and I see the chunk that book is,
Hmm.
and then no page breaks for chapters.
Nope.
I
It's
don't.
just you just
I
keep
just
going
feel
and
for
going
you.
and going.
I just feel for you so much. I just feel for you so much.
That's how you know it's well written, Like I'm tearing through it. Like I can't stop even though like you said like it's a thick book. I'll get home at noon. I look up at like 7 p.m. and I'm like I need to eat and go to sleep. Like
Well, and the viewers at home who don't know is that Kaylee works a 3 a.m. to 12 p.m. shift. So
yes.
there you go.
Yeah.
I am reading. I have been on a nonfiction kick, and that is very rare for me because it's usually mystery. I'll dabble in whatever my book club that I have here at home is reading. That we have like 20 girls in our book club that are related to or that are friends of either myself or my husband, and I think we are the only two males in there. Not to be stereotypical, but I
That's
think we are.
awesome.
But it's a complete group of Redland High School, West Shore School District graduates, because that's where my in-laws are living from. So we usually do that. But I just finished up New Cold Wars by David Sanger, who's a New York Times winning author. That was fantastic. That is not a mystery book club kind of thing. That was a chunk. And now I'm reading Age of Revolutions by Fareed Zakaria, which is just like progress and backlash from 1600 to the present. I have never been a more dad old man read than I am right now with nonfiction.
Is
So
it
I'll get
interesting
back to
though?
my
Like, is it holding your attention even though it's nonfiction?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, because I'm reading nonfiction. I'd like narrative nonfiction,
Okay.
as opposed to just reading a textbook. David Sanger's very much was like these are the things that have happened in certain presidencies, that and it kind of can read like a little bit more of narrative nonfiction. I just started for reads last night, so that's kind of the same thing. And then this Saturday. For anybody at home, Eric Larson will be with the Midtown with the Midtown Scholar Bookstore. They're having it at a separate venue, but he's doing his new nonfiction book, Civil Unrest about Fort Sumter, I think. But Eric Larson is a big old author of nonfiction, or of dad nonfiction that I like to call it, because he's done stuff about World War I, World War II, Vietnam, like all that stuff. So that's some good local stuff coming too. That's the one thing that I've really found about our area, and I know I'm getting off topic from our book, is just that how many authors that we have, not only locally, but also the power that a couple of our bookstores have to bring in bigger authors into Harrisburg and stuff as well. So there's a little bit of something for everybody, for sure, both local and both national.
Yeah, it's been awesome. And like every now and then I've like reached out to local libraries and been like, "Hey, like do you guys have any suggestions?" And they send me back lists. They're like, "Oh yeah, we just had this
Mm-hmm.
person in, we just had this person in, this person just dropped off some books." And I'm like, "Wow, like that's awesome." And like bring them into the libraries too, which like libraries are freaking amazing. So yeah, I love to
Yeah.
see it.
The ladies of the Redland Library, that is one of my closest ones. So that's up in Newberry Township, York County, up I-83. Have specifically said, because I do like Facebook posts for Fiction Friday or Nonfiction Friday, just on my own personal page of what I'm reading.
Mhm.
They said, when are you going to include or mention us in here, since we supply so many of your books?
That's
And I
awesome.
said, well, I'm about to do FOX43 Book Club. Yeah, and I forget I forget the other person saying that I was talking with. So we are known to them too.
Good.
So
I love to
they
hear it.
would love to. Redland One specifically requests our presence and them giving us lists. So there you go.
Amazing. We can
I have yet
totally
to
do
be to
that.
the Martin one, and I have yet to be to the Martin one in York, by the way.
You have
And
to
I've
go. It's
lived in South
beautiful.
Central Pennsylvania, and I've lived here for 8 years.
You gotta
I've yet
go.
to be there.
It's
Hmm.
really nice. I don't know if it was recently renovated. I have no idea, but it looks like it was recently renovated, and it's a gorgeous library.
Hmm. Hmm.
All right.
I'm very much New Cumberland Redland, the Bosler Library over in Carlisle, fantastic. I mean, I love our local libraries, but yeah, I have yet to be to the Martin one just yet. So expect me at some point, somewhere, somehow, some way.
Yes, good. And hopefully Taj's book will be in libraries soon. Fingers crossed. But yeah, we're looking forward to that. And Braden, you'll be back in May, so can't wait for another discussion. But
Happy
thank you for
May
being here.
Day, by the way, May
Happy May
1st
Day. Yes. Sounds
already.
crazy. Wild.
So.
All right. Well, we'll be back at the end of the month. So good talking.